This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing a friend of mine from the 90s, investment banking, back at DLJ, Donaldson, Lufkin, and Genret. Patrick Sandone, good to see you again. Now moving his financial acumen into the first responder and abroad into other areas of public service and making those people amazing. Patrick, good to see you again in person, somewhat live.
Good to see you, Pete. It's been a while. It's been a long time.
It has. Those were good days back at DLJ. There was a lot of business to go around, and we were able to learn a lot of the foundations of business. So, give people your background, from college till now, and the truncated version, and then we'll talk about the Guide app.
Yeah, sure. So I went to Penn undergrad. I actually transferred into Penn, and there was about 200 kids who transferred in. One of them was Elon Musk. So I got to know him a little bit. Was going to be a doctor, got into medical school, and then had a panic attack, decided that wasn't what I wanted to do, and switched gears, started taking some classes at Wharton, and got a job at DLJ.
Wow.
Yep. And worked there for 3 years with you, and then moved on to do some private equity venture capital up in Boston. Got an MBA in New York at Columbia. And I think at that point, I really knew I wanted to own and run a business. So initially, my family had a business in the automotive industry, took that over for a short period of time, decided that wasn't what I wanted to do. But out of that came my first real startup, which was called NetDriven. And I built a software as a service platform for the automotive aftermarket. Back then, this was 2008, 2009. Most companies didn't really have websites. A lot of companies didn't have really well executed internet marketing. And we created a service around that. And we became the leader in the world in that niche. Sold that company in 2015, and it really left me drained. I was burned out. I was not in a good place, and I decided to take some time off and figure out, how do I really decide what is it that's going to bring me alive? What am I passionate about? And how do I rehabilitate myself from really, digging myself into a hole? And started to take a lot of different courses and retreats and things like that around personal development, and not an area I knew a lot about prior to that. But through that process, I really saw the value in it all, and what it holds in terms of helping people live really meaningful, happy lives. And I used all that knowledge and all the training I received over the 5 years that I really dove into that world to bring that type of work to a bigger audience, and built a company that I'm running now called Guide. And we are focused on helping first responders, military, veterans, and people in other high stress professions really build resilience, wellness, and live lives that they love. And in the company Guide provides an app that is completely anonymous. So the beauty of that is, if you're in some of these professions that may have a real macho culture around them, you may not want to tell other people that you're diving into this world, that you're meditating, you're taking wellness courses, that you're, getting in touch with how you feel about things. And this is completely anonymous. And for most people that have access to the app, it may be the only anonymous way that they can jump into this. And it's a safe haven where you can get help, get support, learn, and without anyone else knowing about it. And the app has three main features that drive performance. One are micro learning courses. So instead of having to take a seminar or sit in a classroom for even an hour, you can learn in bite-sized bits that are 1 to 2 minutes long, and they're interactive. There is a community, and it's asynchronous communication. and that is moderated by our team. You can get in there, you can talk to people, whether it's your peers or one of our moderators. And then we also have practices. So you can schedule out practices, whether it be meditation, journaling, workouts, feeling trackers, and be able to do that on a regular basis. And one of the big theories behind it all is that wellness, mental and emotional wellness, is just like physical wellness. So we all know if you're working out once a year, once a month, you're probably not going to get, you're probably not going to see a lot of benefits. But if you're doing something a couple times a week or every day, over time, you're going to really build strength, build flexibility, build endurance, and it's the same thing with mental and emotional wellness. So we create that possibility for people.
So, I started up a software app back in 2000 to 2003. I don't think there were apps then. It was just a website, by the way. As you take a look at what you wanted to do in the market, did you research other apps and said, hey, like there's something out there, but it's not set up properly, whether from a user interface, whether it's from a communication standpoint, whether it's from, scalability? How important was it to you to target high stress people and to find out if there's a market for that, and these companies and these organizations had budgets available from a revenue standpoint? Talk about how you decided, hey, I'm doing this, and kind of regardless of what research I find, I'm doing it, or hey, I'm going to look at this methodically and decide if there's like an opportunity.
You know what? So it's a little bit of a hybrid. With my former business, Net Driven, I put together a 30-page business plan and mapped everything out. And there was a very detailed financial model, which we actually came within 10% of our 5-year projection for that business. So it was really well thought out. This business, I did take some of that approach. I did look at what other people are doing, seeing whether it worked or not, and trying to think about, could this make money eventually, and could this really scale? But I really trusted my gut a lot, and saw that this is something that I was passionate about. I wanted to help other people like me who maybe were a little bit afraid to dip their toe in the water in this world and make this more accessible to people. And so it was a little bit of a hybrid. I did enough research to make sure I wasn't completely off base, but then really trusted my gut and just jumped in.
Gotcha. And then what kind of team did you build, or what kind of, laying out kind of like whether it was the user interface, or, PowerPoint, tell us how you went about this. And did you go about this in order to bring in other investors or solicit people, or you're like, hey, this is like the Pat Sandone show. We're going to do it my way. And then I'll figure out what kind of materials I want to put together later.
You know what? So I did build a couple prototype apps early on. I'll be honest, I had a lot of skepticism around this business. It was so far afield from anything I had done before, and I took my time. It was a part-time project. We built some prototype apps and did testing with those, and and I was really convinced every one of these prototypes just weren't going to work. And surprisingly, over and over again, we were getting great feedback, and things are working. And then in 2022, started to raise outside money. And a big part of the story was just telling my own story about what I went through and how these techniques really helped me. And what I was surprised by is that when I got vulnerable and shared my story, probably 9 out of 10 of the investors I was talking to, like, I went through something like that too. So I
Right.
was really, really surprised by that. We actually have 50 different investors, some folks that are former DLJers, and a whole host of other people who really are committed and passionate about what we're doing.
So a lot of people build an app, they get people on it, and they see what the usage is, and it's not as robust or compelling. So when you take a look at this group of people that you've started with on the first responder side, whether it's the police departments, fire departments, we'll talk about the client base. What kind of usage are you seeing, and what's this importance of the anonymity?
So I'll answer the first question, and then we can come back to the second one. In terms of usage, we've been really surprised. So, if we look at customers we've had on the platform for 6 months or more, about 50% of the people who are in the departments have downloaded the app, which blows my mind. Um, and then when we look at repeat monthly visitors, we're seeing like somewhere between 5, 10, 15% of people are coming back over and over again and using the app. And we're actually in the process right now of completing our second clinical trial with the University of Pennsylvania's Behavioral Health Department, where we're going to have a more robust view of repeat visitors and utilization, as well as what's the impact on people's mental and emotional wellness. Our previous clinical trial, we saw it was smaller. We saw about 16 people use it several times a week over the course of a month, and we actually those folks were using it very consistently, and we actually saw a nearly 30% decrease in anxiety, and 15% increase in overall wellness, and a 15% increase in motivation, as well as other benefits. So not only is the utilization there and engagements there, but the benefits are there.
Hmm. And how much of that are you doing on site when you onboard? How much are you doing that remotely? Is there like a team in the background that's like, whether a live coach or an AI coach, or tell us about how the guide works.
Yeah. So when we think about how the app works and where the benefits come from, a big part of it is the community inside the app. So everybody's anonymous. They can identify, some general information about themselves, like, hey, I'm a Marine veteran, or I'm a, active member of the U.S. Army, or I'm a police officer. Maybe an age range, and they can pick an icon. But there's no place to put any identifying information. And some of the conversations that people are having in the app are really cool. And it's something that I like to call people are seeing new possibilities for their life. We see people take an assessment and then come back and say, you know what? I really see that the way that I'm approaching my marriage doesn't work. And I'm committed to making some changes in terms of how I talk to my wife, how I talk to my kids. So that's really what I love, is that somebody sees something they're doing and they make a commitment to do something different. And we see a lot of that, and that type of change is really contagious, because then they're sharing that in the app. Other people see it, and then they're trying new things on too.
Gotcha. And what are some of the aha moments, or like, you got some feedback and you're like, wow, I never thought that that this story would come about, or this, somebody would come up with something that I never thought I was, solving.
Yeah, I think that the big aha is when we got our first clinical trial completed and we got the results. I was really shocked. Um, I didn't know if we were actually having an actual measurable impact on people's wellness. So to see those results, see that, like, on average, everyone that was using the app saw their anxiety go down by I think it was 29%, was just shocking to me, and that was just after a month. Or to see that people's motivation went up, or people's wellness, overall wellness went up. Those things I was really surprised by. I just didn't think we would have that profound of an impact in that short of a time. And that really encouraged us to kind of continue going forward, and then team up with Penn to do even a bigger study.
Hmm. So when you talk about doing something with Penn, like, yeah, like I went to Emory, I went to visit Harvard Business School. I probably can't just walk up to Penn and be like, "Hey, you want to do a clinical trial with me?" How did that work from being an alum, or like connections? Just talk to people here, because there's a number of companies that should be having clinical trials to support their apps or their business, and they just don't do it because they don't think it's like the most important thing, or one of the most important things. They also don't, like, that's an intimidating place to try and venture into if you don't know anything about.
Yeah, you know what? So we actually hired a person to do a survey of who may want to. So this gentleman was a PhD out of Australia, who's in the wellness world, and he's got a lot of cool ideas and research that he does. And he loved what we were doing. And we partnered with him to find a university that was really excited about what we were doing. So he identified three different institutions that we had conversations with. And Penn was just a great fit, I think, for a lot of different reasons. It's obviously close to where we are. I am an alum, and they do a lot of work with the VA already. So it kind of, I think what I find more and more is you take one step forward, and even if it feels risky and you're not quite sure if there's going to be solid ground on the other side, and everything tends to work out. And I've been leaning in more to trusting my gut and just moving forward, and things just keep working.
Yeah. Would have been, the average kind of like sales cycle, or, I hate to call it a sales cycle because you're basically like installing, a system that reduces stress to that magnitude. I mean, it's not really, am I selling you something, or am I like, almost like gifting this to you as an organization? No matter what you pay me, you're going to underpay me, right? I'm not selling you. I'm like helping you like install, this trophy of like, the I'll use your wellness term for a second, like the mental wellness or the halo wellness of like your entire, you know, force, if you will.
Yeah. So
I'm not
so
sure. Was
say
there a
that.
question in there? I thought there was.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I think there is.
What is the question?
I mean, the question is like, how long does it take to like convince someone like, hey, this is the results. It's a clinical study. This is how it's working for these, fire departments, first
Kind of a
responders. Like,
sales
how long does it
cycle. And
take me to convince you to now on board with me?
yeah, you know what? It's actually interesting. Enrolling people in this is pretty easy. I think there's a lot of awareness that this is something that's needed. Where we get stuck sometimes is helping the customer find the funds, because these aren't private businesses. These are government entities, and the budgets are planned well in advance, and there's usually not enough money to go around. So trying to find the budget for it tends to be where our challenge lies. But we're figuring it out. We onboarded the fourth largest police department in the country, the Philly PD, not that long ago. We just signed up the seventh largest police department in the country. We've got lots of other folks that are going to be coming on board in the next couple months. So we're figuring it out, but it's not a straight line, and we are getting creative, trying to find ways to get things funded. And but there's grants out there. There's some programs that we're aware of where using some aspects of Medicare and Medicaid, you can get things done. So we're figuring it out, but that is our biggest hurdle. Like, while we've got, I think currently about 13,000 people using the app, mostly first responders. There's still a lot of room for us to figure that piece out, but we're getting there.
So you referenced before you've got some investors, in this deal. Obviously, what you're doing right now is not necessarily 100%. Hey, what's my return on investment? I would suspect like people understand what you're doing. This is somewhat of a hey, can we do good things? But maybe it's like would be deemed like impact investing. Let's say is like a catchphrase. How do
You know
you
what though?
think? Go
we
ahead.
we we are we are profitable. We're going to make money this year, and I think this can be and will be a very profitable business. So we are not asking for donations. We do intend to do right by our investors, and so far we're ahead of schedule in terms of our promises, in terms of revenue and things like that. But it is kind of a win-win. And I think one of the things I do struggle with is that this is more than just a business, right? So this
Exactly.
isn't.
That was my point of the question.
Yeah,
Of like leading
it's
you.
it's the happy marriage between doing well and doing good.
Right.
And I think that's a new model for business that we look at, oh, this is a charity, and charities are doing good in the world, and this is a business, and businesses are, neutral contribution to the world, but profitable. I think it can be both. And I think we're going to see more and more businesses that are actually making the world a better place and making money doing it.
Got it. And from a standpoint of other competitors that are trying to do this, do you think that they have the same, without naming names, when someone's like, "Hey, I'm considering you're the guide or something else," like what's like what's like the special sauce, or what's like the takeaway for you that's like, "Hey, I know there's other softwares in the market. I know there's other, ways to onboard your athletes, if you will, but here's why it should be the guide."
So I think a few things that are really different about us is, as far as we know, we are the only app that has any scientific basis that it works. Our engagement rates are, from what we can tell, probably 10 times more than our peers, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And the features that we offer are really unique, and the fact that we're completely anonymous is also a big selling point. We went so far as to team up with Okta, which, if you're not aware, is the login security software that Google uses, Amazon, Salesforce. So we've really thought through what does anonymity look like and how to lock it down. And then we're really focused on getting results. We want to make sure that if somebody's using this, that they're seeing real tangible benefits.
Great. So my last question as we close out here, and then we'll obviously have all your information up on our site to try and get more groups on board. Obviously, I told you I'm an honorary battalion chief of the FDNY, so love to see this in the New York area. You know, when you think back to how you used to wake up and work, 18 hours a day, being a solid investment banker, if you can think about like how that felt, I don't even remember, to be honest with you. Like, I guess I was super motivated and I was excited versus waking up today, knowing what you're doing, that you're building a business that's affecting hundreds of thousands of people. Um, how do you feel?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, you know what? And I don't know if I was a solid investment banker, by the way, but I definitely feel like I'm doing the right thing. Like I'm not. I don't think I ever question when I get up that what I'm doing, and it is more of a flow experience. And I think when you find something that truly aligns with what you care about, and you find that balance of doing well and doing good, I think a lot of the doubt disappears, and it feels a little bit more effortless. And it kind of feels like it is woven into the rest of my life in a way that just seems to work. And I'm happy. I am.
That's awesome. Well, feel free to use the halo term as much as you want, either in addition to wellness or as a substitute. Look forward to seeing you in person. So when you get back to the city, let us know, and it would be amazing if we could do some meetings together with the public service organizations in New York, because that's where we're based, and we want to make sure we bring the best solutions to them. So that's also going to be the guide. So great to see you. Proud of what you're doing, and go Halo, brother.
Yeah, go Halo.
Awesome.